Welcome to episode 17 of the Breaking Bio podcast. I'm your English challenged host, Stephen Hamblin from the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia. And today is Friday, the 8th of February, out here in, well, beautiful Sydney. It's looking pretty warm out here. What's the temperature out there in Canada right now?
It's cold, and we're actually under a big snowstorm warning, so it's snowing pretty good right now out the window.
Oh, I missed that so much. All right.
I would trade you right now. Yeah, if we can just pull a transport right now, I'd totally pull it.
Seriously?
I'd be hanging out in Sydney.
When you get the choice between plus 46 and minus 46, take minus 46, truthfully. But, no, he's just shaking his head.
I would trade with any of you. I don't even care about the weather.
It hit plus 46 out here. I could not breathe. Like, every time I took a breath, my lungs just went, nuh-uh, we're not having that. That's way too hot. Send it back. So,
right.
We're joined today by...
Hi, I'm Morgan Jackson, entomology PhD student at the University of Guelph, Canada, and currently sitting in the midst of a snowstorm. I'd much rather be in Sydney, Australia.
Hi, this is Rafael and I from the University of Akron, Ohio, and I would trade places with any of you.
Because you're
including the listeners.
So that's an open call if anybody out there wants to trade places. Please send an email
you'd have to work on birds.
breakingbio@gmail.com.
No, that part I want to take with me. I can take my job, and you can have the rest of the city.
Oh, so now you're putting conditions on it. Whatever possessed you to move to Akron in the first place? Like, was it the only PhD program you got into, or was it...
My advisor.
Yeah.
I mean, I did apply to University of Melbourne, but they didn't want me there.
You wouldn't want to go to the University of Melbourne anyways.
Those little fuckers.
I think I just lost 3 viewers.
Yeah, so I applied to a couple of different places, and I got accepted here first. And I really like my advisor's work, and I really like working with him. And I actually visited. So, okay, I probably shouldn't say this, but yeah. So I actually visited here a year before I moved in here. And so I stayed here for a month, and my advisor took me around to all the nice places in town, and not the shitty ones where I ended up living afterwards. So I was like, this is a cool city. I could totally live here for 5 years. And then, when I got here, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did you live on a farm or something that you thought Akron was a cool city to live in? Even seeing only the good bits, like.
I mean, if you don't go to the crack selling zones, it's nice. I guess it's a regular city. What?
I said the crack selling zone is like right outside your drive-through window there, right?
Oh yeah, it's across the street. It's across the street from campus, dude. Like, you cross the street from campus, there's a blood bank, and like all the crackheads are there, trying to sell blood to buy crack. I'm not even exaggerating. It's like one of the most dangerous places in the city is 1 block down from campus.
I can't wait to get a blood transfusion in Akron.
Yeah, it's like, do not have an accident here.
Come out of that with an addiction to crystal meth. Fuck.
Yeah, but the research school, I like my work, I like my lab. So
you just don't like leaving it.
What?
You just don't like leaving the lab.
Yeah, exactly. At least it helps me focus on work, I guess.
Yeah, that's something that it's hard to explain to people sometimes about being a grad student or being, in science. That once you get past the bachelor's, you go for people, not for, places. Like,
yeah.
You could end up in Akron legitimately because there's somebody cool to work there, right?
Exactly.
And not just because you can't figure out a good place to live your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you never know really what to expect, especially if you come from a different country, like, how bad can it be?
Well, you came from Brazil, so, I mean...
Yeah.
Where did you live in Brazil? Were you in
Brasilia.
Rio or in Brasilia? Okay, that's the capital. Wasn't that planned city?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it is.
So
it's only like 50 years old or something like that.
Canberra is like that in Australia. They put it right in the middle of Melbourne and Sydney because the two cities couldn't figure out who was going to be the capital. Under Sydney. Everybody dumps on Canberra and says, it's this planned city. It has no soul. But, I mean, seriously, you can actually drive in Canberra, and people there don't stab you randomly, and it's just it's a nicer city.
Did you have a random stabbing problem?
Well, no. I find in the big cities here, the Australians can be a little aggressive, but.
So do they actually play the knifey spoony game? Like, that's not a knife, this is a knife, like in the streets as you're walking down?
No, but there are rumors, and I'm not sure if this is substantiated or not, but there are rumors that they play with knives on Anzac Day. I'm not sure why.
In what game?
What would be Anzac Day? Is that like when they all get like Viagra or something? Like
No, Anzac Day, it's a little weird here. So in North America and most of the rest of the world, we'd celebrate Remembrance Day.
Oh.
But Anzac is the Australia and New Zealand Army Corps. And it was their combined armed forces. And in World War I, the Anzac forces took this huge shellacking at Gallipoli. And now they actually celebrate that. And it's sometime in the first half of the year. I can't remember exactly when it is right now. But it's a completely different day, and they celebrate Anzac Day, and they don't really pay much attention to Remembrance Day. And it's a little strange, truthfully. But so if you come over here, half the streets are named Anzac. There's Anzac memorials all over the place.
So when you say Anzac, you just mean ANZAC?
Yep.
Huh. I feel a little bad about making a Viagra commercial about a Veterans Affairs Day, but
yeah, a little bit.
Really.
You're going to hell.
Well, that was a foregone conclusion anyway, so.
Yes. Well, with you being a scientist and study of evolution and all.
Of course.
I'm just looking forward to it. I'm going to be doing a debate with some creationists sometime in the next couple months. So
you really are a masochist, aren't you?
Well, the opportunity came up, and I thought, I should try this once, right? Like,
you did try it once, and it didn't work out for you.
Well, no, I mean in an actual debate format, right? Like getting up on stage and debating with the creationists. We're going to lose, right? Every time you debate creationists, you lose. But
maybe not the best attitude to go into it with. A self-defeated evolutionary biologist is not a good evolutionary biologist.
There's a difference between knowing I'm right and knowing I'm going to lose a debate, right? You can't debate creationists. You lose when you do, because all they have to do is just do a Gish Gallop and then they're done, right?
Well, I guess it depends on what you'd consider a win. You're not going to convince them, that's for sure. I mean, that point is long gone. But remember, you can try to
the fence sitters.
What? Yeah,
exactly.
The fence sitters. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that is the aim, right? But in terms of the actual structure of the debate, I'm prepared for the fact that it's not a good venue to defend science in.
Yeah.
If you're gonna put forth the case for evolution, doing it in a timed, restricted debate with a creationist is just not a good place to do it.
Yep.
But keep it to the peer-reviewed lit.
Well, all they have to do is ask 7 questions, right, in the space of 6 seconds, and you could spend the rest of your life answering them, And that doesn't really play well in a debate. All they have to do is read one book. I've been reading for most of my adult life.
Yeah.
As far as the scales go, it's tipped in one direction.
All you got to do is get there and show a video of what's that? The tiger snail sex.
Tiger snail sex.
Lion snail? I don't know. The ones that crawl up and then hang down.
Leopard snail.
Leopard.
Wait, are we naming Mac operating systems here? Like, is this panther snail, tiger snail?
Yeah, so there and you
Mountain
show a
lion
video
snail.
of leopard snail sex, and you ask him to explain.
Mountain
Show a
lion
video
snail.
of leopard snail sex, and you ask him to explain that to me. Like, did your God come up with that? Like, he's a sick fuck.
Oh yeah, well, all you have to do with that is God works in mysterious ways, right? And from the sounds of it, that's pretty mysterious. So
I did not accept that answer.
I do not accept that answer. Well, neither do I, but just standing up there and going isn't really going to work.
La 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 la.
You're a stinky face. I need to come with a bit more rhetoric than that. I may not be Cicero, but we're going to have to up our game a little bit.
I got nothing.
But I just figure I should try it once, right? And just for the experience of it.
This should be interesting. So how big of a debate is this? Is this going to be like open to all of Sydney, or just the creationist wing of your local university, or
Well,
some hobos? I don't know.
the details are still a little sketchy, but from what I gather, it's going to be well, yeah, the whole thing is sketchy, but from what I gather, it's going to be at a local church. So there'll be an audience, but it's also going to be recorded for television.
Mhm.
So you may see this ugly mug on Australian cable TV at 3 a.m. somewhere. We'll be on that channel that the stoners flip to and go, oh man.
Oh, here's another fun fact from Akron. When they had that big trial in Tennessee?
I'm sorry, another?
Yep.
There was more than one?
And they were fun, apparently.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's fun when you can indulge in other people's misery, I guess. You don't have to be here, but yeah. So remember that big? Was it in Tennessee? There was like a really big trial on evolution in classrooms.
The Scopes monkey trial you're talking about?
No, more recently, like over the last 10 years or something like that.
The Dover, Pennsylvania trial?
Not sure.
Wow,
Anyway.
you're really starting this off well.
Yeah. So there was the creationists brought in a biologist to be their expert witness.
Yeah.
Guess where does he teach?
Akron. Nice.
Yeah, it was quite embarrassing when I found out. I was like, really? And so they actually, like, every now and then they have these debates at my university. Like the local Christian group brings up. So they bring this guy who's about to retire, and he's like, I'm a biologist and evolution is crap, and we're like, oh, thanks a lot. It's like just.
Do you just shut up in the back while you're not a very good biologist?
And they always have like these really moderated questions and answers. Like you can't like raise your hand and ask a question. You like write it down and they screen it. They only ask the really convenient ones, and there's no real like comeback. It's embarrassing, man. It's horrible.
So
yeah, it could be worse. That's
question from
You'll be
Church Boy
fine.
72 in the audience. Evolution is crap, right?
Yes, it is, and I'm a biologist, so. It's
So you can
horrible.
believe me. Yeah.
So
I'm a
after his
doctor.
testimony, like the whole department and people from like the geology department put together a letter, kind of like his opinions did not reflect the opinions of the rest of the department. It's just so embarrassing.
So let's get a special report from our correspondent on the road who went to Science Online. Morgan, tell us about the
I
good
guess
stuff.
that's me. Yes, I was at I was at Science Online last week down in Raleigh, North Carolina. Bug was there as well, and I met up with Jacqueline Gill, who we've had on the podcast before. So
So for
Breaking
the
Bio.
guests at home who don't know what it is, can you tell us what Science Online is?
Yeah, so Science Online is Facebook, YouTube, whether it's even print, like a lot of journalists are there that are big name for writing books and publishing in big publications like New York Times and Wired and such like that. So it's kind of like a big science communication blogging nerd fest for 4 days. So. But the unconference, so like I said, they call it an unconference, and essentially what it is, instead of everybody getting up and giving their 15-minute presentation like you'd have at most scientific conferences, each session is broken into different rooms. In each room, it's just a conversation. It's an open conversation led by a couple of people who kind of meld the conversation and poke it in the right direction. Then they just open it up to the floor, and it's just an open discussion between anybody that's in the room and interested. So you got a little more flexibility. You've got people bouncing ideas off each other, bouncing facts and opinions, and it's just a big brain session essentially. So it was very interesting in that regard to see something going so totally different from a scientific conference that I'm normally used to. So
yeah. So how does that work out? I mean, because intuitively, I guess just from my background of going to regular conferences, I would expect a lot of people to just be intimidated by that format and not really speak out. Is that what happens, or not at all?
I assume that there were some people that were essentially lurking the whole time, the same as we have in most media.
Mm-hmm.
So while I assume that there were some people that didn't, generally the whole population of the conference was really open and was really great for newbies. So they were very helpful for bringing me into it, making me feel like I belonged there and that I had something to contribute. So
was it your first one?
Yeah, this is the first time I've gone to the conference. So I mean, I followed it on Twitter last year, and I thought that was pretty freaking awesome. I wish I could go this year. So then I got in. But because it's such an opening, welcoming community of people, and they're all sitting there, and everybody's opinions are valid. Everybody from Carl Zimmer down to lowly bloggers like myself who are just there for the first time. Everybody was super nice and open to conversations and stuff like that. So I think it was a very good way to do it. I can't see it happening at a real scientific conference anytime soon. There's too many egos generally among scientists and drastically differing opinions on methodology and such, and I think you could turn into a pretty crazy show in the scientific community.
But with this community,
yeah, pretty much. But with this community, because again, it was weird because I mean, I knew a lot of these people from Twitter and from reading their blogs, so I mean, it's kind of weird to go up to somebody and say, officially introduce them or see them for the first time, not knowing what they look like, and realizing what their cat looks like more than what they actually look like. Like that was the strangest thing to me was, I know what your cat looks like, and I know that your cat looks like, but I don't know you. It's great to meet you. So,
welcome to the internet.
Exactly.
Were you starstruck with anyone? Was there anyone you met and went,
"Oh, totally"? Yeah, I totally fanboyed over David Quammen and Ed Young. Yeah.
Yeah. How did that work out?
It was mostly me just, shuffling my shoes saying, "Oh my God, I love your writing. I'm such a big fanboy. Please sign my book." And then I had nothing else to say. I spent all my conversation on those 3 sentences, and then I just kind of walked away like an awkward person.
This is why we didn't get any interviews, isn't it?
Yeah, social networking, much easier for me via computer, not so much in real life. But that being said, it was awesome, and everybody that I did talk to, got past the fact that I was blathering like an idiot for the first 30 seconds of our conversation.
I kind of wondered about that because, I mean, a lot of the people who would attend SciO are, like, it's going to be a self-selected crowd, right? Like, people who show up are going to be there because they want to be there. But on the other hand, the pool of people do tend to be, at least, some of them tend to be somewhat introverted, just extroverted online. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've touched on this in the podcast before, but did you get the feeling there were people like that there? Like, were there a lot of lurkers, or was it just, was everybody just having balls to the wall fun? Was it?
Well, I think a lot of people were introverted to begin with. I know I was, but it was easier to come out of my shell there and talk to random people, I think, because A, I had met, digitally a lot of them before, so that first ice breaking was done, and B, everybody was pretty much on the exact same mind wave, brainwave kind of thing. We're all thinking the same thing and there for the exact same reasons. And unlike in a scientific conference where everybody's kind of jockeying for position within power struggles and stuff like that, or citations and publications and stuff like that, it was different here.
I'm sorry, we always end up making scientific conferences sound like the friggin' Thunderdome, right?
They are.
They're the ego dome.
They're not that bad, right?
No,
you don't get handed an axe when you walk at the door and say, "Go kill someone."
Wait, you don't?
Apparently, I'm going to the wrong conferences.
Yeah, no, they are. I mean, they're fun for a different reason. They're just different than what this was, I guess, is the easiest way to say it. This is more of a dialogue, whereas for me, scientific conferences are more almost promotionary. One big promotion for either your research or your group's research, or as Bug calls it, the CV dick, essentially throwing it out on the table all the time at an academic conference. Versus this thing, it was all, I won't go so far as to call it one big group hug, but it was, more discussionary, big group discussion, big ideas on fixing problems rather than on the solutions each individual had to the problems.
So what kind of big ideas did you stumble across? What were the big eye-openers for you?
There was one really good session right at the end. It was called Life in the Then. And it was videotaped. So a couple of these sessions were actually videotaped, and they'll be coming online, and you can view the entire session and all the dialogue and everything like that later. But it's called Life at the Then. It was about wearing multiple hats, like if you're a journalist and a blogger, or a scientist and a blogger, and trying to keep your conflicts of interest lined up correctly. And it was just something that I'd never really taken the time to consider. I mean, I assume that I'm doing everything fine, but I mean, it kind of forced me to think about, should I be doing things differently if I'm, should my realms in blogging and my realms as journal editor and my realms as student, should I be keeping them totally distinct, or is it okay that they bleed into one another a little bit? So it was an interesting discussion, and especially since we got to hear from people across all disciplines of science, all different levels of journalists, all sorts of PIOs, so press information officers for universities. Those are the people that are writing the press releases for scientific relations, scientific projects, and releasing them to the journalists. So it was very, very, very broad spectrum of backgrounds and ideas, and it was very good for figuring things out. So that was a good one. There's also some good information sessions, like we sat in on a couple of podcasting how-to and best practices kind of things, so hopefully that'll show up here. Yeah, no, it was a very, very good conference, and if anybody's interested in science communication, online or offline, and establishing dialogue in different ways, and just kind of recharging your batteries in that way, I would totally recommend trying to go next year. And they're starting to do these branch out events, so you don't have to go to the big one, the main one that's in Raleigh. So they just announced one that's going to be in Miami, Florida, and it's going to be all about oceans, so it'll be ocean-related science online and oceans. I think there'll be some satellite events throughout the year as well.
Well, so this is turning into like a TED thing where it's going to be branching out in every city now?
Well, I don't know about every city, but yeah, they are starting to branch it out a little bit. They're leaving it open so that people don't have to follow the exact recipe for each one. But yeah, it was very worthwhile. But
in general, I mean, you had a good time, a lot of social opportunities with these people, and
yeah. Well, that's the other good thing is that the sessions were like each of the discussions was an hour, but all the breaks were half an hour, and the lunch was like an hour and a half, and it was all on site. So they had big open areas to sit and talk, and various ways to do that, and big open provided lunches. So you were all there all the time, and you had plenty of time to mingle around, meet new people, and make new discussions. So that was probably one of the better parts of it. Is you had a lot of the conference atmosphere, but you also had a lot of the hallway chat time as well, which is good to meet people and talk about some of the things that you've just been learning about.
Kind of sounds like it was hosted by Bilbo Baggins, like. hour and a half for lunch.
There was a lot of food. Yeah. There was a lot of food. It was a lot of excellent food, and it was all provided. It was probably the least I've ever spent on food going to a conference out of town, for sure.
Wait, did I just call Bora a hobbit?
A little bit, I think you did.
He actually originated.
Very nice guy.
He actually originated Science Online, didn't he?
Yeah, so it was Bora, and then Anton Zucker. I think they were starting, two of the co-conspirators that started it, I think it was about 7 years ago, as a local conference. And now, since then, they've brought Karen Trapphagen on as the official head of the whole thing. So now they're actually a not-for-profit organization, and are organizing all sorts of things here. So she's actually, I don't know what her official role is, but she's in charge of the Science Online brand now, I think. Yeah, so.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to meet the blog father.
Very briefly, yeah. Yeah, he was a very popular guy, because everybody knows. I mean, the big people, they all know people, and they all have their own people that they're trying to get to. So that's the other complicated thing at conferences I always find is the people that I'm most looking forward to talking to, I end up picking to choose to talk to at the worst possible time, and that's usually very short conversations. But I do try and introduce myself to everybody I can.
You know, I wonder, because I know Science Online kind of positions itself as the anti-conference, you know, and it's all open and it's all about discussion and such. But is there any stratification at all? Like, you know, do you get the big names wandering around talking to each other, you know, and then, you know, people are trying to break into those circles? Like, you know.
No, they were really good at it. I mean, as a somewhat introverted Canadian, I don't like, you know, barging in on, you know, a circle of people and just kind of sidling up to break that thing, but everybody else did. So, I mean, they were totally open for it. I had people, you know, if I was standing off by myself looking at my phone, Twitter, people would invite me over and talk to them, or just sidle up to me and talk. So it was really good about that. It was hard for me to believe, because I know I'm coming at my perspective of an introvert who hates doing that, but it actually was pretty awesome that way. So it was pretty impressive, though. The one time I walked past and there was a table over near the little buffet in the middle area, and it was the only people at the table were a National Geographic editor, Ed Young, Carl Zimmer, Brian Switek, and Virginia Hughes. I think it's Virginia Hughes. It was like the entire National Geographic blogging team, and they were all sitting at this table, I guess having some probably face-to-face meeting. But I was just like, the superpower of science communication just sitting there. It's like, we just need to
waiting for them
paint
to pull out their rings and...
Yeah, exactly. Captain Planet. Just put a little gold ring around the table, and that was the National Geographic table. It was an inspiring show of power. But
Are Ed Young and Carl Zimmer actually like Power Rangers? Like, does this turn into some sort of...
Can you clarify on that, Steve, please?
No. I'm just leaving that out there.
But yes, to answer your non-Power Ranger question, everybody there was super open and really, really nice. And they all drank a lot too. So.
Well, you get enough science people in one place, and that tends to happen.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So.
Oh. Well, I'm glad you had a good time. I'm going to try and make it next year, but just couldn't quite get over from Australia this year.
I don't know if there was anybody from Australia. There was people from all over the world, but I don't know whether there are any Australians there or not.
It's just so hard to get anywhere from Australia, truthfully. Like you're
at least
a day in the air. Go tell that to Newfoundland.
You think they talk funny? They don't get any outside access.
And we just lost another three viewers. And we're shedding them today. But, all right, well, we should kind of wrap this up here. I've already got enough work to do cutting out all of my mistakes. All right, so thank you for joining us for episode 17 of the Breaking Bad podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.